Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Legion's class. Hope everyone's doing well. It's really good. I think we've gone almost about a month. I actually wasn't even here. I was ditching that day. And a couple of these guys were playing games actually for recess. So if you haven't checked that out, please go back and see some grown-ass men playing with their toys. So definitely worth checking out. Today we are doing things a little bit different. If you'll notice, one, you're not on Ozstradamus Toyz channel. You're like, what's going on? Two, things look a little bit different. They look a little bit spacey. And that's because today we're focusing our class topic on cosmic legions, which is kind of like all the rage right now amongst the legionnaires, if you will, amongst the cabal, etc. So also, just to kind of get it out of the way, Oz sends his regards. Eldor sends his regards, two of our usual co-teachers who couldn't be with us today, hence the sort of relocation today over here on Brick⁵. So happy to have you all in my home, in my little corner of YouTube. And today we're actually going to call it the off-world something, because if you haven't figured it out, we are joined by essentially a good chunk of the off-world folks, right? So yeah. I'll go ahead and let folks introduce themselves. You know most of our current teachers, and then one guest teacher that's been here before. So let's go ahead and start over here.
Hey everybody, it's Jesse from Just Shelve It, ready to dive into Cosmerium in the world of cosmic legions.
Curtis Ackerman, also from Shooting the Shelf and Offworld. Happy to be here. I'm really excited for tonight.
Shawn⁴, Legends of Grayskull podcast, as well as Offworld. And yeah, always happy to be here. I got caught with the cosmic bug myself this week. So yeah, it's happening. It's addictive.
Okay.
Got a little of the Sphexian flu.
A little, yeah, more than a little, based on the pre-order I just did. Yeah.
Ah, okay, cool. So did anybody at your house get mad at you and put you under lockdown with the Sphexian flu, or no? You're good.
Oh, I'd be fine with lockdown on the Sphexian flu, to be completely honest. Then I could be down here and just play with my toys for like a week, and that'd be amazing. Yeah, but.
All right, so thank you again to the class as well for showing up today. Let's see who's all here. Claiming first. Thanos Copter, good to see you. Payne's Toy Sample, Sloppy Seconds, good to see you. Thirsty, oh wait, that's some other guy. There's another guy who's like, hurry up. Cobb, Jacob, good to see you. Good to see you. Come back when you can. Check it out when you can on the replay. Do your homework, take some notes, and we'll test you next time. Nolan, a class regular, good to see you. Star definitely has had the Sphexian flu, or what is it, syndrome, or whatever it is. Has had a little bit of I don't know, tuberculosis and all sorts of stuff. Star has been true to their namesake, all about the cosmic legions. Let's see, singing the praises in every chat I think I've seen Star in. Greg, formerly of the Brute Scale. I have two of you on pre-order, friend. Good to see you. Thank you for joining us. And let's see, who else? Looks like my real life classes, a lot of people are going to be tardy. Nope, we've got Allison Troy sitting way in the back, trying not to be seen, but I see you and I'm calling on you every chance I get. And Allison, throughout the broadcast, will be giving us updates on some important toy news throughout. So best prepare. Let's see. Brian Brink of Chart fame. Good to see you. And let's see. Scott Baker, always good to see you. Thank you. Another Legions class regular. Great to see you. Already like naming all the great things that are coming up. I'm right there with you with some of those toy lands you're calling out. Okay, so that's our class for now. Thank you all. Feel free to drop in. Anybody else who wants to join us, it's open to auditing the class. We're doing this asynchronous too, so feel free to check it out on replay. All right, folks. co-teachers, before we get started, even in real life class, it's like we gotta just chill out a little bit, warm up. We can't get straight to business. Let's talk a little bit about what's been going on for you this week, whether it's toy stuff, general nerdy stuff, or maybe specifically Cosmic Legion stuff. Who wants to go first? Yoink.
Oh, okay. I'll jump in on that. I landed the NECA Lawson Turtle 4-pack. Splitting it up, I only wanted Raph, but I had two people chime in immediately before I even thought about getting it that said they would take the Donnie and the Leo off my hands. So I was able to offset that purchase for basically one figure cost, which was nice. I already have him up in my Raph shelf, so but it's nice. I shoved the Monkey King head in the hood that comes with the Raph part and put it on a dwarf body, and it's just too far out of reach, and I feel I would knock stuff over if I went for it. So and it's just the face. It's not even the full Monkey King head. It's just the one face plate. So
cool.
You can do a real makeshift LBC with that on a 1.0 body.
LBC, since we are kind of like a Legions for Beginners type place, stands for Long Beach City. Oh no, what does LBC stand for?
Sorry about that. It stands for Lazy Boy Custom. Yeah.
Cool. I didn't realize you were a Raph person. Is that your turtle of choice?
Short story, yes. Long story, Leo was my guy. And then when Shawn and I became friends and we decided we were going to play Ninja Turtles at recess in like 4th grade when the movie was coming out, he had read the book, so he knew what was going on. So he became Leo, and I picked Raph after that. So Raph was my second choice, and but has become my number one.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Anything cosmic related, or anything else that has been coming up for you? Four Horsemen, maybe.
I'll be hitting up PowerCon in August. End of this month, I'll check out. There's a local toy show here in Central PA called Toys for the Ages in Carlisle, and there's at least one vendor there who is an approved Horseman vendor. So hopefully, I will pick some stuff up from him cosmic wise there. So
okay. Cool. Who wants to go next?
I can go.
Don't be shy.
No, you were talking about the Sphexian flu earlier. Well, I have Mafex thelioma. So I've been really hitting with the Mafex bug lately, and I opened my Mafex Spider-Man, Black Suit Spider-Man this week. So really happy about that. And then Cosmic Legion showed up on Friday. So so far I've opened up 5 of them. And worked on building some DTOFs for them. Last time I bought DTOFs was last February, I think.
Oh.
And I ended up I needed 4 more for Mythic Legion, and I ended up getting 2 extras for Cosmic Legion. So I bought 6 at the time, left 2 in the garage, and so yeah, today I built those 2 with my family. They helped out. They did a great job.
So for anyone wondering why your local IKEAs are sold out of DTOFs, it is Curtis.
That brings my total to 10 DTOFs now. So, and I'm definitely going to run out of room here very soon and have to buy some more.
I'm so curious how many people at IKEA at any level are aware that it's become a toy thing,
I know that they sell a lot. I know that. It was interesting when I went to get these because they were on back order for several months. And this is after they raised the price, because they used to be like $60, and then I think they raised them to like 80. I think now they're 100. But they had raised the price and they were still out of stock for like ever. And I had put a notification online to like see when they came in. So as soon as they came in, I placed an order online. And a few days went by and they didn't fill my order, and I could see the inventory number on their website going down, and I'm like freaking out. And so it was down to 6 left, and my order was for 6. And so I went to the store, and there's 6 sitting on the shelf, and I start grabbing them, and like a family came over they just wanted 1, and I'm like, sorry, these are all mine. Like they're all mine. I've already paid for them. They're ready to go. So I take them up front to go check out, and I'm like, listen, I placed an online orders, but you guys haven't picked them. You were down to 6. I came in and got them, and they're like, oh yeah, we picked your 6 last night. They're sitting back here.
Oh. So
they
somewhere out there is a family really sad they didn't have a nice place
they
to put
just
grandma's
wanted one.
remains.
They wanted
into.
one single DTOF, and I shut them down. And yeah, mine was sitting in the back. So yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Don't you know me? I'm inevitable. Why would
Was
you
this
pick me?
before or after you left pistachios all over the movie theater floor?
This was after.
We do what
Oh.
we gotta do. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I've slowly been opening the Cosmic. I do this thing where I'll send somebody, my wife or one of my kids, over to the box and say, just grab one at random, and they bring it over to me and I open it. So far I've opened up 5 of them, and I am in love. They're amazing. So
Man, where's that IKEA sponsorship, man? Because Brian Brink is also, we're getting this the latest IKEA update. Supposedly there's a DTOF 2.0 coming, and man, that's always tricky whenever IKEA does that switch up. And you like, I'm an IKEA nerd, or at one point was, and people online, there's all sorts of chatter around, worries about if it's going to fit in the same way, be compatible, and so on. And did you say? How much did you say it was for you? Is that
originally the first 4 I got were $60, and then the next 6 that I got were, I believe, 80, and then last I heard they were 100. But yeah, it looks like they might be up to 120. I mean, it's still a great deal regardless. I mean, I know I've got a curio cabinet, and I went to buy one piece of glass for a shelf, and that one piece of glass cost more than a whole DTOF. So I mean, glass is not cheap nowadays. So the fact that you're getting, a completely enclosed glass case with glass shelves for that price is still way worth it, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I only ever want one, just so I can use one of the cubbies to like measure for diorama building. Like I'll even take like a plexiglass insert.
I can just give you the measurements. It's not a problem.
But to have like an official one that
right, gotcha.
You can just slide the foam in there to make sure the scale's right.
Gotcha.
Real quick, I'm not sure what Star's referring to. It sounded like it's too quiet here. My wife is starting to accuse me of making up the whole Legions class tonight to get out of watching one of her movies with her. I'm not sure if you cannot maybe not hear or it's low, but it seems like folks are responding because we're talking DTOF. This is the DTOF section of the class. So, we got to talk about organization, your school supplies. So you gotta have your DTOFs.
I think Greg's on the Billy bookcases, which I know a lot of people have gone to those. I don't like dusting as much. I mean, I enjoy dusting my figures to take a look at them, but I don't want to have to do it all the time. So I like the enclosed nature of the DTOFs, and I feel like it gives a nice clean look. So
Greg is on those like industrial grade, like Home Depot.
Oh, gotcha.
Like tool supply shelves with like the inserts that like clip in, and he's hardcore.
Gotcha.
Okay, looks like Star's good, and Star has preeminently been sort of like naming their love for this line, and now it's like after seeing them in hand, that's it. I'm done. Cosmic Legions forever. Don't need anything else except a good balance that game here and there with Pizza Hut and beer. Those are some kind of interesting accessories there. Love it. Folks are definitely feeling this the storage conversation, and we'll get to the rest of us in a second. But Glass and Shelves and myself don't get along. I do Billy.
I'll never have a DTOF.
I do Billy with with the glass doors is what I do, and I actually have them at work, so I found a way to kind of like keep the dust out. Danos is looking to do Modu cases eventually. Not familiar, but is you guys familiar with Modu cases?
I've not heard of that.
Okay.
Isn't that a He-Man character?
Modu.
Yeah.
Maybe he's created them and he's given them to Earth.
Brian Brink is using IKEA Vitzjo shelf units.
Bless you.
Hashtag Team Vitzjo. And Greg, I think Greg took umbrage at the ability comment. I'll never buy a Billy either. Yeah, I got the heavy duty ones, which you can doll up to give it a fancy look, but when you build small worlds in them, you can't tell. Yeah, that's where that's where I'm heading, is trying to like build out scenery and stuff for mine.
Yeah.
But anyway, off of furniture. Oh wait, thank you for no breaking it down. Modu cases are modular plexiglass cases with magnetic front panels.
Okay.
Probably pretty good for Thanos and I here in California. Less glass to break in earthquakes. Modu cases are next level. Seen them in person. They're really nice.
I just pulled up the website. They look pretty fancy.
Nice. Well, Thanos has a lot of fancy, dare I say, sexy things to display in his cases. So that'd be great. All right, Shawn, how you been? What's been going on with you?
Ironically, I spent the last month. I got a whole bunch of bookshelves, but they're just from Target, the $37 ones.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's been interesting. I haven't been able to get in here and really do what I want to do with this stuff yet, but it's just really cool to go, holy crap, I can put all this stuff out here. And I'm like, holy crap, I already ran out of room. What the hell was I thinking? You know, like, what am I thinking collecting all this stuff? This is insane. And then today I put in a pre-order for Cosmics. So then I'm like, well, now I got to figure that out. So, but yeah, the Cosmic wise, it took me a little while to get the bug, but now that no pun intended, but now I'm like, I'm starting to see what works for me, at least. Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah, the dad jokes. That's all I am is dad jokes anymore. But it took me a while to see what appealed to me, and now that it appeals to me, I'm like, well, now I got to get in on these pre-orders quickly from the secondary people, because I don't want to have it be like Legions where it's, you know, I got into Legions a couple years ago, so it's like, you know, there was already like 4 years of Legions or so before I jumped in, and it's, you know, Curtis was always saying, you know, jumping in at the bottom, ground floor, and all that stuff, and I'm like, I'm gonna do my cherry picking right now and get it done with, and then I don't have to worry about it, you know, 2 years later when, you know, figures all of a sudden are getting a lot more pricey. So
looks like the principal stopped by the class today.
He did. He's like, you know, you better be doing your jobs right, folks. We're doing your assessment right now. How's it going? Thank you for joining us. Happy Saturday to you as well. Thank you for being such a fine creator of wonderful playthings.
We were just before we went live, CB, we were talking about the Cosmic reveal special when you guys were doing it from the hotel room, and you're laying on the hotel bed as you're presenting the new Cosmic Legion line. So beautiful stuff.
Sorry, I just realized not everyone in the class may know who the principal is. Would you mind doing the introduction?
Yes. This is Cornboy. This is one of the Four Horsemen. So yeah, we are very honored. Yep.
So all righty. Was that it, Shawn? Sorry.
Yeah, no, that was,
you know,
that
steps in, and you know how as we pretend we like get back on topic.
If out of anybody who wants to interrupt me in this kind of a class, if Cornboy is going to be the one, I am not going to step on those shoes in any way, shape, or form. So happy to be the one that he did that to. So that's cool.
Awesome. All right. On my end, I love. I don't have any Cosmic coming in. We can kind of talk about that later and kind of figure out where everyone's at with actually getting their hands on Cosmic. But I've got animals on the brain. And so first off, this figure, you know, I think the last time we spoke, this figure was not in people's hands. This thing is a work of art. This thing means so much to me. And I'm just super stoked that this figure got created. That's the figure Obscura, which is a line for the newer folks, sort of the third line of this kind of, I don't know if that's true, but yeah, sort of third line connected to these different parts and pieces. There's Mythic Legions, there's Figure Obscura, and Cosmic Legions. The reason I stopped myself is how do we factor in like Gothotropolis and some of the other things? Do folks kind of like, because
that was its own wave. That was its own line.
Yeah. Okay, because you know,
but they're not active lines. So I mean, the three active ones right now are the ones that you mentioned. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. happy to show my ignorance. But this is amazing. And on that note, man, I just got in my wave 2 Animal Warriors of the Kingdom figures, and I've got, again, monkeys on the brain, apes on the brain. This thing is fantastic. And side by side.
Can you hold up, I was going to say the Sun Wukong with him. Oh, nice.
Yeah.
He's a beefy boy.
He is. He's a big one, right? And just the posability on these things. These are amazing. But again, this is not what I've been doing a lot of lately, which is AWOC talk. This is Cosmic Legions. But allow me to say that most folks think when they see the big hammer and the armor, it's like a sword and sorcery thing. No, it's actually quite a sci-fi story, and most people don't realize it, which is something that I've been spending a lot of time kind of trying to talk to people about the lore, breaking down the story of this, and cool looking guns and the whole nine. So anyway, that's where I'm at. Unfortunately, I'm just watching folks like Curtis online being like, man, I want my cosmics. I'm waiting for mine from BBTS of all places. And so that's where I'm at.
I will say with that Monkey King, I mean, it's not my favorite figure they've ever done, but I think it's the best figure they've ever done. Like just in terms of just a work of art, like this thing, it's so good. Just please, even if you're a dwarf fan, like take a second before you tear it apart and make, some crappy dwarf. Like take a second to just look at it and appreciate the beautiful masterpiece that they put out before you throw some dumb head on it. Okay.
This is why we invite Curtis to join us in Legions class, so that he can come in and get us all sorts of fun enemies of those smaller in stature. Okay. We've got a couple of late folks joining the class. Let's say hello real quick, and then we'll move on. I'm going to leave the comments by our principal for a second, because let's see. No, you know what the heck? Let's throw him in there. My fat lazy butt laying on the bed in the background where I belong. That is the person who is in charge of this school. So we appreciate that. Other late folks joining in. We've got highly articulated Adam. What's up? I'm holding out for cosmic apes. That's the beauty of it. We don't really got to hold out, right? We just like take a head, throw them on his body. That's the beauty of what the horsemen create. Modularity, pop and swap. Love it. We've got Duchess of Darkness. Good to see you. Hello. Thank you for joining the class. And we got Jeremy J. What's going on? Authority figure. My sometimes other dad yelling at me. Let's see who else is here. Cool. Oh, and if I may, while we were all checking in, Allison was doing some homework and wanted to let us know that we're currently at 107 Batman announced by McFarlane, 32 Jokers, 32 Batwings, and 1 Transformer-esque transforming robot Batman from Todd's middle school fan fiction called Batformer X that will peg warm. Thank you for that update. All right. So today, folks, we are talking in Legions class about Cosmic Legions. If these folks, they just keep sneaking in the class. What's going on, Trevor? 1-6 shooter. I told Eric T that as soon as I opened MK, it's my favorite thing they've made. And I'm assuming that's Sun Wukong.
Yeah, Monkey King.
Yeah, Monkey King.
Oh, Monkey King. That's right. I forget that.
And Eric T is Eric Treadway, the one of the other 3 of the 4 horsemen that does all the sculpting.
Have those 4 ever given each other nicknames to figure out who's death, who's famine, who's pestilence, and
It's
so
actually-
on in war?
There's a Toy Fair issue from the early 2000s where they did go through and they said who each of them was.
Okay.
I'm trying to think. I remember. Let me think here. Jim was the one that said he's death because he's the closest to it. And then the others, I can't remember who. I'm having a hard time remembering the other 2. But yeah, at that time there were 4 of them, but then Chris left, and so it ended up being 3, and then everybody wants to be the 4th horseman now. So,
all All
Yeah.
right. Yeah. So now people are wondering, why isn't it the Three Horsemen? Because
Four's better.
four brings us to the end times, which is sometimes. Anyways, all right. Let's again, more folks. Thank you for joining. Take a seat. There's
What's up,
plenty of
David?
room. Good to see you, David Williams. All right. Let's go ahead and get started. As we were talking, we're gonna today it's really gonna do some big picture stuff around what Cosmic Legions is, and we'll start in a little bit with.
Can I show you something real quick?
Yeah.
No.
Just before we get too far
Go
off
for
the
it.
King.
That'll allow me to send my tech.
Space Monkey. So.
Oh, you got Space Monkey? Oh, wait, hold on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just took
Can you
the
move 'em a little
sentry
closer?
body, threw some of the Monkey King parts on him. There you go.
Oh, it's too much fun.
Yeah. So there you go. You don't have to wait for space monkeys. Just make them.
You put the hands on there too, right?
Yep.
What about the feet? Did I miss the feet?
I didn't put the feet on there. I could,
Okay,
but
gotcha.
yeah.
Those are those feet are amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
and it's like
no need to wait for space monkeys. Just throw them on there.
Grab
Monkey
them
King
and
comes with extra hands, feet, and head. So you
God,
you
the
can have your
underside
Monkey
of
King
these-
and have enough parts for something else.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right.
They don't skip out on sculpting any surface on these things.
Yep.
Great stuff. All right. So let's go ahead and get started with our main presentation. Please feel free to keep coming on in. Good to see you, Dave Orkin. Thank you so much for joining us today in Legions class. Let's take a look. As I was saying, we're going to do some big picture stuff with the world. And actually, does that look right? That does look right. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Let me go ahead and pop this out, make it a little smaller so I can see you all. Okay. So we'll kind of go back and forth between sort of story things, as well as kind of like the history of the line in terms of like when it came out, when it pre-ordered, and all that stuff, as we kind of get to certain spots. So, sorry, one other thing. Hi, I'm a YouTuber and I don't know how to do this. Man, they're like, yeah, let's make it easy. Not. All right. Let's head into the main. Welcome again, folks, to Legions class. We kind of did this presentation thing to structure when we were talking about Mythic Legions, right? So felt it appropriate to do the same thing here for Legions class. We'll get into a little bit more about what all these awesome symbols look like. Your future tattoos will become more apparent as we talk about them. They're definitely some of mine. Today we'll talk a little bit about the world of Cosmerium, and I think actually we'll probably end up going through the cosmic affiliations and looking at some figures. So you can ignore that last thing because that's probably not going to happen. All right. So as with all things Mythic Legions, right, we talked about how that takes place in Mythos. Well, now we're in a completely different realm, completely different toy line. We are in the world of Cosmerium. And as it sort of said in the video title and in the thumbnail, this is like its own little world with its own sort of, I guess, the beginning of all reality, I think is what it said, or something like that. It'll be more apparent when I can actually read it. But before we get there, this is that poster, right? That first sort of image that was shown and teased to kind of give us a sense of the brand. And you'll see there 2021. Could folks kind of share a little bit about what they remember about how this all went down? Take us back to that time, because I actually wasn't around and following at that time. So anybody who was there and remembers, can you give us a little bit of sense of how that went down?
Well, from my standpoint, I mean, I got into Mythic Legions in February of 21. And even at that time, they were talking about Cosmic Legions. Like I guess it had been something that they had teased for, several years, and kind of talked about that there was going to be, kind of this space version of Legions at some point. So it was not a matter of, if it would happen. It was just a matter of when, kind of like we've talked about a dragon coming for Mythic Legion. We know at some point we're going to get a dragon. We just don't know when it's going to come. So Cosmic Legion was very much the same way. We had no idea when it was going to happen. And then they announced that they were going to have a reveal special. It was coming towards the end of the year. We know that they have G-Con in November, so it was just kind of an odd timing. I think it was like right around September that they did this special. We're like, it just felt like the right time for Cosmic, because it was 2 months before G-Con, and you would think that they wouldn't really do another big Mythic Legion wave that soon. And so yeah, they did the Cosmic Legion special. I know we were talking about it beforehand, but I remember Jeremy was in his house, and then the Four Horsemen, I'm pretty sure they were at PowerCon, and they were in their hotel room. And so they were doing the special from their hotel room. So you had Eric Treadway at his computer, and then you had kind of Jim walking back and forth and handing him figures and stuff and talking to things. And then you had Cornboy was laying on the bed in the background, and they just were going through each one of these figures as they went, and just bringing fire after fire with these things. And it was really cool. So that's what I remember from it.
And so did they, when exactly was it announced? Like, was it at a particular, both one, he kind of mentioned it, but when was it announced, and when did the pre-orders start sort of happening?
They did the live special, and then the sale went live right afterward. So as soon as they were done with the special, it went live. I believe it was a 2-month window, if I remember. Because they wanted to, it was a brand new line. They wanted to get enough people enough time to get into it and stuff. And yeah, so it was pretty, it was Galactic Legions. So they had, I know they were kind of messing with the name, and then they settled on Cosmic Legion. So.
All right. And so for the folks in the chat, would love to hear who in the chat was following the Four Horsemen or Mythic Legions when that news arrived. Like, I don't know actually of the folks who are here who was following it, who was collecting Legions, and just kind of want to get a sense of what folks' familiarity are. So, all right.
Oh, I do remember now that Trevor said that. They actually showed, because they were at PowerCon, because they actually showed the prototypes after they did the reveal special. If you were at PowerCon that year, they had the prototypes on display at PowerCon. So you could actually see them in person there that weekend. So that was back when PowerCon was still in California.
Yeah, we've got all sorts of folks. Like Dave was there, ordered his figures right away. David remembers the bubble helmet teaser and the skull in the sand. That's right. I don't have a image of that. Those teasers were pretty cool. Scott says Cosmic was my second pre-order through the Horsemen. Yeah. See, for me, I was just kind of following the news. I'd been following Legions for a while, but hadn't dove in until I didn't dive in until January 22. And so just sort of watching it, and then all of a sudden I'm into this thing, and now they're announcing this new thing coming. I was like, oh man, where's this going? But here we are, 2 years later. It's folks familiar enough with sort of how the delays happen? Like, a lot has happened since they announced in 2021 till now. Like, is that usual for folks' contacts and stuff? Is that the timing usual? Because I know it was a little bit different for this line.
I would say on a large wave, usually you're looking at 1.5 to 2 years on a big large wave. With this, we're closing in on 3 years. But you also had, all of it was new tooling. Like, there was, practically nothing that was used previous to this. And on top of new tooling, you had like slogs a completely different scale than what we've seen before. So that's not even anything that's the same size that they've used. And just, there's some crazy things like with the wings and the weapons and stuff like that. Like, it was all brand new. So, obviously, we're still towards the tail end of COVID. So that played a part. And then, there were some QC issues that I'm sure they dealt with and sending things back and forth to get it right. But I know, they wanted to make sure, with this being the first wave of Cosmic Legion, that by the time you got it in hand, like, they were the way that they should be. So you know, for me as a collector, I know not everybody will agree with this, but for me, I would rather them take their time and get it right than, you know, get it to me fast and have a bunch of issues. So
yeah, I mean, always like get it right, and the thing is, they usually, at least from my time with Four Horsemen's work, like it's always it gets done right. We were talking earlier about a figure that came out recently from a different line, Figure Obscura, and that you know, they got it done right, and they spent a lot of time on it, clearly. So I'm happy they came out when they did, and that everything that I've seen so far seems like folks are loving them, and you're going to be able to show some of them so far. I don't know about you all, but I've only really found like 3 reviews so far on YouTube, or maybe really small handful. Are there more that you all have seen? I've seen like
the only thing I've seen is
and
the
Toy
Door
Bro.
Player. I don't know what you guys have seen.
Yeah, I think the only other thing I've seen was Toy Bro with big dude. What's his name? Is this Slog?
Slog. Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen people posting photos, but you know, as far as the like reviews and stuff happen, right? So kind of cool to sort of see where everyone's at in their different places. And thank you for sharing with the class. All right. Sorry, I wanted to rearrange that layout because I'm not going to cover up Shawn's face with the comments. That's just rude.
Trust me,
Nobody
I
puts
think it would
baby
be
in the corner.
okay. I think it would be okay.
That's not what I was
think
trying to
it'd be
do.
all right.
No, I always get, I feel a little bad whenever I see that on YouTube streams. All right, moving forward, let's talk about the world of Cosmerium. First off, all the identity for the brand. Like, this was an amazing opportunity for Four Horsemen to kind of like rethink a lot of things, right? Like, they're starting a brand new thing, so it's like we're starting from scratch. We need an identity for this thing. We need branding, logo. We need the world, etc. And so I just want to throw this up there as the logo, because as a person who's worked in graphic design before and a visual person, I really appreciate a lot of the thought that goes into visuals. And I look at that logo, and for the longest time, it was kind of like, oh, you know, like what's going on here? Clearly it communicates like the tech of it all, the space, all of that stuff. But there's actually more to it as we kind of go into the lore. So this toy line takes place in the world of Cosmerium. Again, I'm going to try my best to pronounce things. So, the birthplace of planets, stars, and even life itself, created by cosmic gods of old, the Orient authors and their Cronin offspring. It's a system divided into 5 rings, centered around a fiery sun named Zol, the first star. Each circle of this system performs a specific role. Now, I know you all can read, but there's a reason why I read that out to you. Because again, I look at this logo, right, and I see a series of rings, and I'm sure they've probably broken this down somewhere else. Is that right? Have they? Or because this is what I saw. So please let me know if this has already been broken down. Are you guys familiar with this at all?
Think I've seen anybody do like the in-person breakdown like this, where you've overlaid the rest of the circle like that. But I mean, when we were at intern, and all 3 of us were at intern in November, they talked through, and like and I know Jeremy has talked to the different people talked about on the official shows, the packaging elements, like how the bars on the packaging line up with the 5 rings and everything.
Okay, cool. So, I mean, this is how I sort of interpret it. I actually haven't seen them break it down this way, so I'm glad, you know, please tell me if I'm wrong or whatever, but I'm assuming this is the case because it lines right up. So if you're like, wait, what's he talking about? Right. So we're talking about these 5 rings, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and all surrounding this sun, Zol. Just before we move on, what do you all think of the sort of the setup of this world? We're moving in from the world of mythos with its sort of like big sweeping lore to the origins of that world. And we're kind of doing the same here with some hints at that. Any reactions, responses, things that it reminds you of maybe?
I think what I really like about this is, and they've addressed this, that they were able to, since they'd already done several years of Mythic Legions, they addressed going into Cosmic a little differently. Like they wanted to get the story in from the beginning. Like they're kind of not course correcting, but like readjusting some of the story lore for Mythic Legions, where it was just, here's just a wave of figures that had a story, but they're with Cosmic, they've said, you know, they're intentionally telling a story with the way they're releasing them and the way they're putting out the information. So I think it's really cool to see the design like this, where you're working the lore right into the logo.
Yep.
And that's a great thing that people can just look at and reference, like just looking at the logo. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah. Anybody else? I don't know. Are folks big sci-fi fans here? I know, like, you know, I kind of generally know folks' background, but what do you think of this as maybe either sci-fi fans or people who aren't big sci-fi fans?
Go ahead, Shawn.
I'm like a toe in, toe out person on sci-fi, depending what it is. There's certain, like, it depends on what the story is. Sometimes it depends on, you know, is it more psychological and like Star Trek is a different breed than Star Wars, and there's always that battle of, you know, the how that works. And I've always been more about like the adventure side of things, so that usually leads me towards Star Wars more than Trek. And in this way, it's like I was kind of thinking along those lines, like the space adventuring kind of a thing, like you know, Flash Gordon, for instance, or John Carter of Mars in my head, because Mythic Legions was always like they were filling a role and filling a space that all of us felt we missed when we were kids, because they didn't have a full, like, obviously there's He-Man, there's all these other figures, but this was like, here's skeletons, here's demons, here's, you know, trolls and all these things that you never ever got to play with in one line as a kid. So when they were first revealing the cosmic stuff, it made me go, well, can it be an open idea, kind of like Mythics? Because Mythics, I always felt, if you didn't have a story going into it, you could still be appealed to the line by the designs, by the sculpts and the paint and everything, and the characters, and you could still kind of fill in the gaps with your own headcanon if you chose, and still enjoy it. I think for me, and this is specific to the first wave, I'll admit, it was interesting that the Horsemen said we kind of made it a little more open play in Mythics. We're gonna do, here's book one, and we're gonna legit say, this is the story we want to do using these figures as our characters. And in some ways I was like, that's nuts. Like, that concept to me was like, I've never heard of that before. That's pretty nuts. And I was actually resistant to it, because I like the idea of, give me all these characters and I can just figure things out in my own head if I don't want to. And instead Cosmic was like, well, this is the story we want to tell. And it's like, it took me a little while, but I got there. Like, it was weird to be resistant to that, because I've enjoyed everything that the Horsemen have worked on, but it was very much like, they're telling a distinct story here, and that's very new, but that's refreshing in some ways too, because then people who might not be into Mythics, because they're like, well, what's the story behind it? Can you tell me what it is? And, you know, some people might not know what that is. This time it's like, here's the story. Boom, run with it. This is what we're doing with this line. So yeah, I was pretty impressed by that, even if it didn't appeal to me at first. I liked that they were like, we're gonna do night and day approaches to these lines in that way. So yeah.
For me, it's a little bit different. I mean, I guess kind of with Mythic Legions, I do this as well, where, like, for the most part, I'm sticking to the story that they've laid out there, but I have certain things that I think of differently. Like in my collection, all the dwarves are together, and that's one faction. They're not, you know, like the way that if you look at the bios and stuff, you know, you've got dwarves in like 4 or 5 different factions. Right. In my collection, they're all together. So with this, like, same kind of thing. Like, there's certain things that I look at and I go, okay, the Sphexian block commander and the guards, I like that idea. I'm that story. I'm okay. I'm good with that. But then I see some other ones where I'm like, I don't, that doesn't feel like that to me. So it's going to be different in my world, and I'm going to make up my own head canon for these characters. Like we were talking on Offworld, but Oleg Thygar is a good example. They put 2 Oleg Thygars in this wave.
Right.
I don't need 2 of the same character. So like in my collection, I can't have 2 of the same character. So one of them is going to be my Oleg Thygar, and the other one is going to be some other random space dude. Now, whether that means I'm going to use the same head and it'll be somebody from the same race, but not the same person, or if I'm going to do a custom with it, I don't know. But I'll change that up. So, you know, I feel like kind of similar with Cosmic that I did with Mythic, where I'm able to pick and choose what lore I like and what lore I don't like and make it my own. And I think that's the beauty of this, because it's not a property that we grew up with and know all the lore ahead of time, that you can still have a little creativity with it, not only with the figures themselves, you know, as far as customizing and painting, but also with the story.
Yep. Yeah, it's funny to have this thought about this new toy line that pretty much is like new to all of us, unless, you know, I know folks have been following Four Horsemen and them talking about it till we've actually gotten these figures out in the wild. So they know a little bit about the story, but for the most part, it's a brand new thing. We're all kind of figuring it out. And as with every wave, a little bit more that the world is going to be revealed. It's funny. I'm similar. Like they are whatever makes sense in my brain. Right. I was the same way when it came to a lot of the toys that I love, whether it's Masters of the Universe. It was like, hey, I saw these toys and I loved them. And oh yeah, the mini comics informed that. And then there was this Filmation stuff. But at the end of the day, I know what was happening in my world, right, with the toys versus whatever they gave us. So now it's also interesting, though, because you mentioned like you kind of made reference to it's brand new and there's not a whole lot of like old canon or stories to draw from. In 2023, it's fascinating to look at a lot of toys because for the most part, a lot of it is, and a lot of our pop culture are things that have existed for 20, 30 years, right? That they're kind of just making more toys of. Of course, Mythic Legions, Cosmic Legions, things like AWOC, Armies of Ashmore are different in that.
Yeah.
So anyway, I love to sort of hear how other folks are playing and thinking about these. And it's kind of great because, again, Mythic Legion or Legions class is pitched as sort of this, hey, if you're new to Mythic Legions, come check it out. We're all new to Cosmic Legions. So so it's kind of a fun thing. So
same playing field. Yep.
All right. It's great to see folks who walked in. Thank you. Come on in and let us know in the chat how you like to play with your toys and how you're feeling about having a brand new toy line that you're like, frankly, like the rest of us, are completely unfamiliar with. We're all learning together here. So
I'll say, I want to throw one more thing on here real quick if I can. The way I plan on collecting the Cosmic is like, I'm going to work them into my Mythic Legions. They're going to somehow have been stranded on the planet or somehow work the specs. Like I'll keep elements of the lore, elements of the, you know, the races and things they've set up, but like I'll try to work them into my Mythic story, because I'm not going to be able to go all in on Cosmic. So I'm going to cherry pick the ones I want.
So with that being said, for you, is Mythos just a world within Cosmeria?
In my mind and on my shelves, Mythos is just a continent.
Okay.
In it's kind of like Westeros in Game of Thrones. Then there's Easteros and like all the different, I think there's more to the world that Mythos is in. That's just where we've been so far. So I think that, I don't know if it'll be, you know, something Transformers like where they were, you know, because it starts off with a prison storyline, which I won't dive too much into that, but like a prison ship or a ship of people escaping the prison system crash in the world that Mythos is in, and then the Sphexians or someone's coming after them. And I don't know if it was in the past and they've, you know, been here all along, or if it's more recent and they have to adapt to living in this more primitive world. But that's I'm looking forward to like part swap and try to mythic up some of the Cosmics.
Yeah, and I'll go one step even kind of nuttier than that, and I'm probably going to get some hate in this chat for that, but
bring it.
Like I'm incorporating my Silverhawks in with Cosmic,
Blasphemy.
And in my world, you know, the Silverhawks are going to be like the police of the galaxy, and the prison is where they're bringing all the folks that they've, you know, basically, you know, captured. So they are going to be part of this. And I know mixing lines isn't something that a lot of people like, but for me, that's going to be part of the same world.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'll go a little further, and if I don't necessarily know folks are going to hate you for that, but I'll tell you right now, on my shelf, you've got, you know, you're going to have Sphexians battling, I don't know, the kids from Dungeons and Dragons, and there's going to be Batlin like flying down, and a massive troll is going to come through, and a massive ant, like, you know, Thane's going to be there. Like, that's just kind of what I've got going on. And I've sort of curated, like Thanos, my shelf is somewhat multiversal. In general, there's kind of a science fantasy thing going on. So like, if you think like Masters of the Universe, really blending in like the, you know, the lasers and the swords. And so they all kind of just work that way.
That's another thing. I'm going to put my cosmic enforcers from Masters of the Universe,
yeah.
my Zodak, and I've got a Xanthor custom and stuff. Like, I'm going to throw my cosmic enforcers in there as well. So,
yeah. And so there was a reference here earlier. Let's see, where was it? Bernie's like playing with his figures, like Dark Helmet plays with his figures, right? And you'll have like Wukong making out with and like, oh, anyways.
No, sir, I didn't see you play with your dolls again.
Totally. Yeah. There's a lot of folks who've been chiming in, been trying to feature some of the chat, but generally there's all sorts of ways to play. And, you know, at least over here on Brick something, like, man, you just play, like, especially as like adults who are coming into this whole toy thing and getting like fed these amazing toys by these awesome creators. And, you know, it's like, man, just find your way to play, enjoy it. Like, if you don't get tripped up on the lore, but if you find that it's fun, which I do too, like, get into it. So, and Orcas is saying, I concur. Indeed, we have an even playing field with this case because it's a brand new thing. So how it excites is, as all new creations will be formed if Mythic taught us anything. Yeah. If Mythic Legions taught us anything with a brand new creation of this like completely original toy line, the future's bright for Cosmic, and there's all sorts of cool story ideas, character ideas, toy ideas that are going to be coming out of the Four Horsemen. So, and you're not alone, man. Like, David also can see the Silverhawks working. And I agreed when you said that. I was like, oh, that's perfect. Yeah, throw him in that prison, right? And you got Bucky O'Hara as well. Brian Brink lamenting that, wishing that the Super 7 Silverhawks had more of a Legions type treatment to the aesthetic. Yeah, no, I hear that. Thanks for joining. We've got all sorts of folks coming in the class. Come in, come one, come all.
I mean, the good thing about those Super 7 Silverhawks is they were still sculpted by Four Horsemen. So, you know, the paint jobs are not as Legion-y, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
But the sculpts are very similar in creative, you know, fashion, I guess.
Yep. And you know, this is something I've seen a couple of different people do. I know Dorklair's doing it, having NECA Alf, right? Gordon Shumway just chilling, hanging out in the outpost is wonderful.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Teaching people how to play booyah baseball.
Yeah. And then, you know, on the other end, like, I hear Star, I'm a purist. I have to keep Cosmic Legion with their own. Absolutely. That's the beauty of it, man. It's like, there's
no wrong way.
Sorts of, there's no wrong way. And again, having a brand new sort of world popping in with this brand new line of toys is cool. You know, as a father with two young kids, I'm just excited to have new things to introduce my kids to. And just like I was introduced to Star Wars when that was coming out. Yes, I'm old. So, you know, Star Wars, whatever those things were, Thundercats, all of those things. So I'm happy to have new things. Like, I love for them to enjoy the things that old man liked, but I'm glad to have new things that we can kind of discover together. With that, awesome. Let's get back to Cosmerium. So this is the world, the broader world. We've hit sort of the cosmos. So If you didn't catch it, that each of these different rings of this this world Cosmerium has a specific role. And so the first one is Thropos. And again, I'm just basing it based on this text. This is that inner ring, the innermost circle, and home of Aurus, the first planet, and home to the Aryan author gods. Just the naming too. I didn't get to chime in on the sci-fi stuff of it all. I love that this notion of like the gods of this place, which feels like a very sort of fantasy kind of a thing, but we're here in this sort of more quote unquote science fiction, science fantasy world. And the idea of Aryan author, I kind of like that. Like, oh, that's a fascinating way to approach your gods as the authors of stories, right? The storytellers, or the wills, if you will. Just saying. Zetratos, sure, right? Like Litratos, Zetratos, the second circle, in the heart of military power in the Ferox kingdom. As the last of the original Cronin races, the Ferox enforce the will of Horus. So hopefully some of the folks, the co-teachers in this room, can help us like remember some of these names and name them as we start looking at the figures. We won't get too deep in the species, but if you can make those call outs, that'd be helpful. Mesos. So the thing in Cosmerium is they speak a completely different language. So this is our best approximation in English. So we're assuming 2 M's, 2 S's, 3 S's. Mesos. The third circle is the most populated of the rings and the busiest hub of civilian activity in the system. Don't know what it is about those third rocks. It's just that like Goldilocks spot. Thyrimos, the fourth and fastest growing of the circles, rapidly expanding across to the tech created in Thyrimos, has, I don't think I read that at all correctly, rapidly expanding access to the tech created in Thyrimos has been providing unprecedented independence and power to the citizens of Cosmerium. Thank you. I'm assuming Jeremy Gerard, who writes a lot of this copy, right? Probably, I'm assuming. So.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. Again, I love your work, but I am kind of reminded of Harrison Ford getting frustrated with George Lucas's writing. It's hard to read this, Jeremy. It's hard to read this. Yeah. Okay, and then let's move on to the fifth Exos. The fifth ring is the largest, furthest, and least charted ring of Cosmerium. The dense and mysterious nature of the sector has aided in forging it into a haven for outcasts, scavengers, and criminals looking to escape the reach of Ferox power. So a couple of things going on, right? Hints at sort of like this militaristic, maybe like empire going on. There's a sense that like some places are out of reach, maybe a little bit more wild, if you will, right? Are unknown. Centers of like the first worlds, the old world. So there's kind of like cool little story touchstones that, you know, if you're much of a reader of literature in general or science fiction or fantasy, some of these might feel familiar enough to be able to kind of like grasp, right? So there's that fifth ring. Go for it. Oh, that was just a breath. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
You're not allowed to breathe, Jesse. Okay, so
Okay.
The Aryan vision of a harmonious and united system remains seemingly intact under Ferox rule. The 5 rings have known peace and prosperity for ages, but things are not always as they seem. Harmony is fragile, and even the smallest of fissures can transform into a malignant, crumbling chasm. When that chasm opens up, what will be revealed? It could very well be the end of a utopian dream, but it could also be the first glimpse into a brighter Cosmerium. Set up that conflict for us to play in, right? And that's, I appreciate the way this is done. It reminds me of maybe like story Bibles to a show, or you know, the books for an RPG, right? It's like, we're going to set this up. We're going to kind of create a general sandbox. Now go play. And so along the way, just like with Mythic Legions, they start introducing characters and we get little bits of stories. And you all kind of hinted at an actual storyline, right? Not sure that we'll totally get into that storyline necessarily today. And that'll leave us some room for us to get together again next month to talk more Cosmic Legions. But we went through a lot, kind of big picture of the world. Curious, any co-teachers in the class have thoughts, and then I'll kind of pull up some things to talk about from the chat.
I really like the idea that like the gods, the creators of this world, live at the furthest, like they're from like the most inner ring.
Mm-hmm,
mm-hmm. And it's almost like the ring around them. What was it? Theremos, or whatever that first ring was, is well, I guess it's the second ring, is Trados. That one is like they're like the protectors, like they're the military power in the Ferox kingdom, so like they're the ones that are like they're protecting the inner thing. So it makes me wonder, like, are the beings at the center, are they as powerful as they used to be? Have they fallen? Is it this thing kind of like in Loki, where they're protecting this myth of what might still be there, just right. Building on the traditions and everything, or are they still there? Do they still have the power and they're just letting other people do it? There's thoughts in my head.
No, totally. And I've kind of already hinted, as I was like just sharing some stuff earlier, like there are some touchstones in here that remind me of, I can't help it, like I'm thinking about like these sort of military enforcement, right? And like, is everyone down for that? What kind of conflict does that create, right? We already know that there's like this idea of like prisons, and like, so who ends up in these prisons? What's that like? What's the law, or sort of like what's allowed in this world? So again, it's just like ripe for storytelling, for conflict, for a protagonist to kind of like be at the center of this. That's that's something that is a little bit unique about this line. I think that maybe different from Mythic Legions, in that we do kind of get like a central character in this one, right? Am I right in saying that's not the case with Mythic Legions, right?
Correct. Well, you get two central characters in Mythic Legions. What is it? Helios, and who's the other lady?
But I think he means for storytelling, right?
Gotcha.
Right.
Like in this, like Oleg is the main, is kind of the character we're following, whereas in Mythic Legions it's all over the place. There was no like singular heroic character to follow, or a lead character.
But do you think part of that is just because we're only right at the beginning of this, and we're going to like we've built out quite a bit on Mythic Legions to where we know who the like different faction leaders are and this and that, and we really haven't got there yet. So do you feel like there's going to be other quote unquote main characters that we get as time goes on?
Yeah, I mean, he feels like the He-Man, the Luke Skywalker, like the central character, though. So I mean, he'll have, I guess, the characters that are running alongside of him. He'll have his Man-at-Arms or his Han Solos and Princess Leia or whatever. But it feels like his story is the central story too, at least where we are now. I mean, it's an entire galaxy, so like it could be. His story might come to an end and then it shifts to another character,
Yeah, I don't think a year from now or 2 years from now that, in my opinion, I don't think we're going to go, he's the central character. I don't think we're going to think there is a central character. I think, I mean, if you look at what we've had released so far, it's a lot of Legion builders, guards, sentries, officers, engineers, Sphexians. It's not a lot of, quote unquote named characters. And I think as we go along, I think that some of the central storyline around Oleg is going to be not as prevalent, but I could be wrong. He could be the main guy all the way through Cosmic Legions, but I just think that that's probably just because we're at the beginning of the line.
I want to say I'd equate it to maybe the Marvel universe, the way they're doing the movies, because this story, for me at least, makes me think of Guardians of the Galaxy no matter what. And it's not because of the cosmic aspect. It's more of like this ragtag group that they're dealing with, and also the prison and all that stuff. And I mean, with this being like Jesse said, it's a galaxy idea. I see it almost like, you know, his probably won't be like the Skywalker saga, but it'll be his story within that in book 1 and all that for Valkatar. And then they'll probably have like another book, and that'll be book 1 of that. And that will have another core character that's the one that was another reason, like I said, this storytelling is a whole new way of looking at this line. Right. And I was resistant to that at first because I'm like, well, what if I don't want to follow that as the main guy, you know? And I know you can do what you want, but it was like startling for me at the beginning, going like, well, you're really committing to the story aspect of this time, which is pretty interesting. But I've always thought that where it's like, okay, they're going to probably tell this story. It'll be maybe like book 2, book 3, book 4, maybe, or something. And then after a certain point, it'll do, here's this other thing, book 1, book 2. And you're going to get all these maybe intertwined stories that maybe they'll connect at certain points.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think they're going to stand on their own, and that'll make it a richer toy line for that reason.
The reason why I say that I think that he won't be the central character as time goes on is because unless you're going to keep re-releasing him, that, like, you know, you already put 2 of this guy in the first wave. So I don't know that you're going to put out more, a version 3, a version 4 of this guy. So unless you're going to re-release them, you know, people are going to get in this line a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, and not be able to get this character. And you're not going to want a lore built around to where, like, this is the only important character. Like, he is the main guy. And if you don't have him, you know, pretty much you can't make the story. And then he's not able to be, you know, purchased unless you go to eBay for $500. So,
I'll throw a curveball that I know Curtis hates. This is, what if about All-Stars? Maybe they'll do that again. Who knows?
Yeah,
and I know Curtis is just, he probably just broke something. He just doesn't want to show it. But Curtis is so anti that versus bring on the new stuff. And we like to have that conversation on Offworld. But no, I agree with
this.
That.
Is Offworld something? So
it's exactly. It's Cosmic Offworld or whatever. Yeah. But no, I like the idea that if this isn't your cup of tea, there could be something coming down the pipe from them.
Yeah.
To then go, okay, this is what I wanted Cosmics to be, and now it's finally firing on all cylinders, and I got to do the all-in, or I got to at least get this wave or whatever. And, you know, like I feel like one way or another they will get a lot of people behind this line probably over the next, you know, couple of years. And there's already a really, really good response to the figures in hand and a lot of the people that are up. So I think they're at a pretty good start.
Yeah, you know, like for me, I agree with Curtis in that, like, or no, sorry, with Shawn in that, like, I was taken aback a little bit at the approach, right? That they were going to focus on this character because it is different. And where I went with that is like, oh, that it's kind of an interesting thing to switch it up. And the way my brain works is like, oh, well, maybe they know something we don't in terms of like, you know, oh, well, we've been doing Mythic Legions for so long, and oh, in hindsight, we should have done XYZ. Maybe for whatever reason, there's something that they're seeing or they're knowing that makes them feel like this is maybe the way they should have started. Could be that. It could just be like, as a creative person myself, like, we did that. I'm a little bored. Let's try something different, right? There's a million and one reasons why they might be doing this. So it was weird to me, but I'm also kind of like, okay, this is interesting. I wonder why they're doing this. But you all hit on this, and some of the folks in the chat as well were naming this like, well, what if we do tell this story that we're in right now and follow a protagonist in Thaigar? Is that right?
Yeah.
Every time I say that, it makes me feel like I'm talking about like some weird exercise brand for your thighs or something. So yeah, you know, other folks were saying like, well, you know, yeah, maybe we're following this, you know, like blocks of waves that are told through a character, kind of like chapters of a song in Song of Ice and Fire. Like maybe we are following Thaigar in this moment, and then we're going to switch to another part of Cosmerium or another series of events, maybe later down the road, and focus on a different person. Because it does feel a little bit weird to me to focus so much on one character throughout the life of a line, like you mentioned, a He-Man or a Luke Skywalker. And even with Luke Skywalker, like that's why they needed to get us a Rey. That's why they needed to get us a Jyn Erso, right? It was to kind of give us other ways to tell different stories in the same world. And it is Legions,
if you look at like He-Man, like that's why they had to give us battle armor and flying fist and thunder punch, and because there were people that were getting into the line that weren't able to get the original He-Man, and obviously they still want to sell figures, so you had to keep putting out different versions of that character.
Which I think is what David's.
We're going to see a lot of multiple versions of Oleg, considering we've already got 2. So
I totally understand what you're saying, and I agree to a point. Like, I don't think he's going to be the main central figure for the entire life of Cosmic Legions. I think at least for this beginning story, because his story is something's happening to him. There's something going on with this Cronin race.
Yeah.
Because like, if you look at his 2 heads, they are different. He is mutating. He is changing. Like, so I think we will see other versions of him as he's, progressing through his whatever's going on with him.
Yep.
I'm not saying it's going to be a new one, every other wave or anything like that, but I just think that he is the kind of the central character for the first part of the story. And, they can go backwards. They can tell stories that happened before this, or they can focus on characters from other stories or different parts of the thing that aren't, like you were saying, like the Jyn Erso or the Rey, or, like the predecessors to these characters or whatever.
Yep.
But I feel like, for the first main arc here, it feels like he is a central figure, where in Mythics, like you didn't get the idea that, Attila's cool, but I like Atlas, and his story is more interesting to me, or I really like this character from this faction, or this, like, there was no clear, like, singular protagonist in that one. I feel thus far he feels like the main one for now.
Yes.
I love this.
I would absolutely be shocked though if we get a third version of him. I would be very surprised.
Or at least and early, right? Like maybe
ever, really, but
ever. Okay. Yeah, I was highlighting that while you were saying, because David's kind of like thinking along the lines is like, what would this be like? You mentioned Battle Armor He-Man, right? I could see it like Luke and all the different Star Wars stuff having different looks for different adventures, or to mark different moments in the character's history or growth or time. Some other folks are saying like, hey, I hope Cosmic Legions becomes generational. Kind of alluding to what you were saying, Jesse, what happened before, what happened after. I'd like to see what happens with the descendants of these characters over time and how they build or destroy what's come before. And Thanos says that would give it a real epic scale. I'm a big Dune person. Like that is to this day my favorite book. And that story, if you're looking at it across the books, is very much about generations. And it is epic. It's Cosmic Legions. It sounds like it's pretty epic. More from Star, the sheer amount of lore that would need to be fleshed out for an entire galaxy is mind-blowing. And we're kind of in this mode again. It's all new, right? So we're speculating, we're having fun, we're figuring it out, we're geeking out as geeks do. So it's good stuff. Bernie points out something. We're pointing out all the different rings, right? Is there a hidden ring? As of that picture, lower right side, you can see another ring, though. What's that about? And I'm assuming, is that in reference to maybe the S? Or like the S kind of forming its own sort of series of rings? And I wondered a little bit about that too. Maybe not. But there are some interesting things happening with, like, I don't know if they're like this thing. What's with the two? Why were that, Nate? Why that?
Within those rings, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I don't know either. But again, I guess we're in this fun geeking out.
Yeah, because it's interesting because there are, at least in the 3 waves they've put out so far or announced so far, there are at least 8 different named planets, and there are not 8 planets on this chart.
Right.
So I don't know if there's multiple planets in a ring. Is it because is it a solar system, or is is each ring like I don't, that stuff is beyond my scope of understanding at this point.
Yeah, totally. But isn't it fun to wonder, right? I think
Yeah.
that's the.
I think the S, though, I think that's just meant to be a similar stylistic choice. I don't think it's meant to be I don't think it is. I could totally be wrong. It wouldn't surprise me if they slipped something like that in as an Easter egg, but
yeah,
not everything they say is an Easter egg.
And this is all Nate's work, right? The logo design.
I would assume so.
Yeah, obviously so. Working with the team to kind of something. So, anyway, there was a lot of cool things in the chat. Folks were throwing. Thank you all. I feel like, yeah, it's summer break for me, so I kind of feel like I'm teaching again. Thank you for that, for your feedback, folks. Glad to know you're listening. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about affiliations. So in the world of mythic legions, right, just because that's the analogy that's freshest, we've got these different factions. And we all went over that many months ago and talked about all those different factions. Here we have affiliations. You see the different, again, your future tattoos. Find the one that you like the most, except maybe the one on the bottom right, because the one on the bottom right is actually says data locked. So that's kind of a symbol for things that can potentially come in the future. So really at this point, though, let's kind of delve. This is kind of could be our way to maybe actually look at some toys. So do you all have a particular logo that strikes you, or if you happen to be at that point now in cosmic nerddom where you like look at that and you're like, that is Gravering? Is anybody at that level where they look at these and they know?
I'm not.
And if so, you're a nerd. No.
Shit.
I'm not quite there yet. Like some of them are, but I have not spent as much time on the lore, like studying the images as I have with the mythics. I'm sure once I start getting them in hand and the story starts fleshing out, they'll solidify for me.
Yeah.
I don't read, so.
Well, good. You're in the perfect place. We'll read for you, Curtis. But again, some of this stuff is again, thinking like a visual person, I can tell like they worked in some of the names into this, like Tusk, right? Which is the first one here, but it's spelled very differently from Tusk. But it looks like an elephantish thing. And this has like a ring, which reminds me of a grave ring. So there's some stuff going on. Let's just maybe go in, let's just go in order because I'm boring like that. So I just clicked on that first one. And so this is all, by the way, folks, available on the Source Horseman website. So this first one, for example, is in the link that I just threw in there if you want to follow along, or if you want to do some independent study or homework on your own, go for it. So does this work? Hold on. I want to see if I can resize. Maybe I can. Okay. Let me
take it back. There's at least 9 planets.
Ah, okay. You went through. So we're not really going to read through these, but just this is what's pronounced as Tusk, right? TU5CC. For whatever reason, they're using our weird English, use of numbers as letters, but it works. TU5CC. As far as we know, it's also. It works out to be a beautiful acronym. Traders Union of the 5 Circles of Cosmerium. Again, I gave you the link. You can read along if you want, but now we're at that stage where we're just going to look at cool-ass pictures. So, my favorite part.
Wait, what kind of pictures?
Good, cute pictures. Okay, so...
this might be a different type of class.
Yeah. That's my other show. Okay. So what draws you here? What do you think? Just maybe like overall, and then is there particular figures you want us to take a look at?
In my head, this is the Empire. Like this is the big bads. And it's where the Legion building possibilities are. For me, especially, it comes down to that sentry down there at the bottom. If you scroll down to the bottom, that is the guy that I'm going to army build out. I'm going to, paint a lot of the trim in different rank colors, similar to like clone troopers, and just build this out. I love the Tusk. This is my favorite affiliation, and this character is my favorite character. So
And just warning tonight, folks, we're not necessarily going to show you every single picture, every single figure in the line. We're just going to kind of take a look, give you a sense of it. We're all just kind of like dipping our toes and trying to figure out what this whole thing is about. But it probably would make sense to focus on the ones that are arriving right now. So as we kind of alluded to earlier, just in the last week or so, people are getting these in hand for the very first time. And this figure, the Sentry, is one that came in this first wave. This figure is a more basic sort of builder style figure. So a lot of the deco is a little bit more sparse, right?
Yeah, it was considered a Legion builder. So it was a $25 pre-order price, which is, dirt cheap compared to, pretty much anything else you can buy.
Yeah.
And the reason, as a customizer, the reason I like this is, for that $25 price, you can afford to buy several of these. And then when you look at it, there's so many details that are sculpted on this thing that just by painting a few of the details, you can really make this pop. And there's, a couple million different ways that you could paint those details. And, like just picking out, I'm going to paint this, and that is going to create one look. And then on the next figure, I could paint these other three things, and that's going to create a different look. And, it's just so many details on this thing that it just makes it amazing. So, and, they also on this one in the original wave, they offered for this one, the science officer. I don't know that they did for the engineer, but they may have. They also offered a 6-pack and a 12-pack option, to where you could buy like a 12-pack of these and you saved money by buying them together. So I've got a 12-pack of these coming.
Nice. Yeah, no, these are, and so you've got one in hand, right? Isn't that what you're making our little space monkey friend out of?
Yep. Yeah, I've got like 5 or 6 of them open now, and this is one of them. So.
And so these are the ones so again, give you a sense of the other sort of like Tusk, I don't know, troops is the word, or I don't know what the word would be, because some of them are sentries, some of them are like science officers, right?
Yep, the one in the middle is the engineer, the one on the left is the science officer, and then the one on the right is the sentry. So those were the 3 Legion builders from Wave 1.
And just, to talk about the toy of it all for now, as we figure out this new line, just thinking about some of the things that they could do with this line and give us that might be a little bit different from what we were getting in Mythic Legions, are things like, little accessories for like communicating, like these kind of like really weird. I mean, we started seeing that a little bit in some of like the little accessories for like, I don't know, the birds, I guess, but like this is different. This is like,
Yeah, they've got the port system that's going to allow for you to, plug in tubes, plug in weapons, plug in display features. I'm sure that the third-party customizers are going to come up with some really crazy stuff. And, it just allows for a lot of different options to just really change it up. So.
And in this picture, the ports that you're referring to are these ones right here.
Yeah, they've got those on the guns. They've got it on their arms, on their belts. So there's a lot of ports throughout. And then, depending on like the one that you have on the gun there, they also have these clear pegs that you can plug into that. And then you can hook the gun onto your belt or whatever.
Love that. Yeah, AWOC has those for their shields, and it's the coolest thing. It's kind of like, why aren't companies doing this? Just that little peg to add that little functionality on. Cool.
And that bonus head on this guy is really cool because it's got the 6 eyes on it, and it's just, that thing is just really cool. So
hold on. No, you know what? Sorry, I'm not that fast.
That's fine.
I was like, oh, can I just drag you? All right. So that's the this is the Tusk. We're still in the Tusk. While we're here, which are the other ones that are
bottom? They're like where we are at. There's like a little person icon next to ours, and if you click on that, I think that embiggens.
Oh yeah, that's right. Here, let me embiggen you.
So like this is that's the Sentry with that bonus head. So like I said, it's all mostly one solid color, but there's so many different details throughout here that you just paint a few of those details, and it's going to really make this thing pop. And then while you've got me up, I'll show the other Legion builders that you were just showing. So there's the science officer.
Would you mind showing us sort of where that port on his forearm, what that looks like?
Yeah. So like it's basically the same port as you have there. You have and one on his waist, on his, and then you've got some on the back. So there's like ports everywhere. And then, you know, this one just plugs into that arm port. So
I'm going to show my age real quick. Curtis, were you around for Micronauts?
I was not, but I've heard Jesse and some other people talk about it after the fact. And then this is
very much like those little ports.
So,
that's great.
So those are the 3 Legion builder figures that were in that wave for $25 if you were on the pre-order. So,
was that figure meant to be the engineer meant to be female necessarily, or just kind of a thinner buck?
Yeah, it's a female figure. So if you take off this collar piece, if you take off that underneath, she's got the same torso as the Ziri figure, which is another one of the female figures in the wave.
Very cool.
So, yeah. So those are the 3 Legion builders.
Yeah, these 2, 1, 2, and 3.
Yep.
So of these, this other Tusk pilot is coming in the next wave. Oh,
that
no,
is the
sorry,
third
2
wave.
waves. Yeah, wave 3.
The Outpost Zaxius.
Yes. Cool. And then let's talk about some of these. Like, let's start here. Have you opened Big Guy up yet?
I have not. He's the one we haven't got to yet. We'll get to him tomorrow.
High Warden Slog. You know, again, we don't have to go super into but what's the deal with the title High Warden? Want to break that down for folks?
He is the commander of the prison Volcatar, which is in the 5th ring. So he is kind of the end all be all of that facility. And he was had some sort of injury that forced him to live in this suit, and that's part of the overarching story. Is there's this, I think it's called Thyrexium or something. There's some sort of chemical compound that keeps him alive in this suit. Kind of reminds me of Baron Harkonnen in Dune a little bit, like just a similar vibe, not the same thing, but
kind of a Darth Vader kind of thing too. You know, that is keeping him alive.
So I think that's what those canisters are supposed to be, that they plug in, and there's some illegal thing that they stole the recipe from another character. And so, I mean, he's like the epitome of like your evil prison warden, but in space. You know, he sounds crooked as all get out. He's just doing everything he can to take care of himself and make sure that the prison keeps doing what it does, so he keeps getting his resources.
Now in the story, Jesse, is he, because I know they talked about, like, you know, these folks like fighting in the arena, is he the one that's pitting them against each other, or is that just something that's happening kind of under his watch? Does it say?
I think because that's like in the lowest rank, so that's where that's kind of like the worst, like where the worst of the worst prisoners go. Like if they're just so unruly they can't be dealt with, they like go down there. And it sounds like the Sligor, the blue builder that's from the Outpost Zaxius wave, he's kind of the guy that enforces that section of the ring. I wouldn't be surprised if Slog knows about it, but I don't know if they've given anything that he's been the one that's like in charge of it. I feel like that's, you know, I feel like he's more obsessed with himself and, you know, getting whatever he can to promote himself, and he's letting this Sligor guy do the dirty deeds down below.
Done dirt cheap.
Star has an interesting thought there down at the bottom.
I think Slog used to be a prisoner in the same prison. He was pardoned as long as he works for the Union. He's a stooge. He's still wearing his prison uniform under the suit.
Possible.
I love storytelling, man. And this is what it's about, right? So many of the people who are creating stories now for shows on streaming networks and movies were all started their storytelling with action figures and role-playing games.
Yeah.
You know, Jesse, you were talking about his suit. Is that what we're seeing here? Like he needs a suit to survive. Is this a readout of him?
I'm not sure what that is, but I know like the prison makes that serum, that Thyrexium or whatever,
Okay.
which is what keeps him alive. What keep like because it's like something the moisture in his skin. That's why he's enclosed in that thing, and his suit is like tied. Obviously, it's a toy, so you can move it around. But the description in the story is that he's like tied directly into the prison. So imagine if he's walking around, his tubes and stuff are like connected to
rough.
things.
There is an image of him on that little scanner that he's got there, and the engineer that I was showing earlier, the Black Legion builder female, it says in their bios that they basically help to take care of him, like to make sure that he his suit's working correctly and he's in good health and that kind of thing. So
That sounds like a horrible job.
it does.
Other story ideas. Slog was probably a grave ring champion from long ago. Grave ring being that sort of gladiator ring that you all were mentioning in the section of the prison. That's why the Union recruited him. Perhaps.
I tell you what, if that's not the Four Horsemen story, that's my story now. So thanks, Star.
You know what my story is? That thing, that apparatus there is the canister for Slog's nuts. It's right there. Sorry, I'm keeping with the tradition of Offworld last night and Superman's build. So
Super dog.
Oh gosh.
okay, yeah. Sorry, Jesse. We
That's okay.
Up and away.
right.
Oh.
Yeah, no, this
didn't
thing's
go
great.
there.
This
I
is
just thought of it. Yeah.
what are we talking here? Like roughly 9 inches? Is this a little shorter than an ogre scale in Mythic Legions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's shorter, but it's wider and it's super heavy from my understanding.
Yeah, he's I don't think he's as tall as an ogre. I mean, you might be able to get him upright from pictures I've seen people posting already, but he's massive. Like I didn't hold him at ZoloCon. I didn't want to pick him up. But he is huge.
He didn't want to be the guy who broke Slog.
No.
Jesse, the slog breaker.
I did get to hold the I think it was the Sphexian block commander.
Perfect. Well, let's go. So every prison needs guards, right? So this is one of them, the Sphexian block commander. These are the bugs.
This one I do have open in hand.
Show us.
When
I
saw this at when I saw the gray, like the prototype or the fine cuts or whatever they called them at PowerCon last year, like these were already the ones I was most interested in. Yeah. But they seeing them in person, even in that gray, uniform plastic color, was amazing. Well, I'll see myself out. But getting to see the full color, like finished version or whatever that they had at ZoloCon that Curtis is now holding up the full production version of is just and I'm not a bug guy either. Like I can't stand the bugs in Star Wars in the prequels, but these guys, the Geonosians, thank you. See, all this lore is starting to push out lore from other stuff.
Totally.
But I mean, these guys blow me away because they feel somewhere between insect and reptilian, like there's or crustacean, almost.
How
are those wings, Curtis? Like
they're translucent, and you can move them up, down, and then back and forth. The only thing that you can't do, and you want to be real careful of, there's like on here, there's the lower part and the upper part, they do not separate. So you can't, they're not independent of each other. They move together. So if you try to separate those two, you will break it.
What's the connection point? I'm assuming they're just molded, right?
Yeah, they're molded together at the end. Okay. So you just want to make sure you don't separate them, but it'll go up and down, and then it'll go back. Like you can bend it this way.
Would you mind showing us from his back?
Yeah,
what that looks like, what that joint looks like.
So you can go that way, you can go this way, or you can go down and up. So
comparable to Mythic Legion's wings. That joint is the same one, or
yeah, I would say so. The translucent on it, it's not showing up on the camera. Like I'm looking at it in front of me, and then I'm looking at it on the camera.
Damn good, yeah.
And it's not as as cool on the camera as it is
Okay,
in
for
person.
sure.
Like you can see the light shining right through it, and it almost looks like a stained glass window. Like it is so cool. So
I know we're doing Cosmic, but those wings are on a version of those wings are on
Yes.
Poxus as well, correct?
Right.
Poxus, I believe.
could
I
be.
heard that, and I heard they mentioned something though about the connection point maybe being different. Is that what you heard too?
It doesn't. I mean, it doesn't really look like it to me. It looks about the same as the normal wings.
Yeah, I'm mistaken. I mean, Jeremy was talking about it on Mythic Conversations the other day. Something about exactly the way you phrased it, Jesse. A version of these wings, and I forget why exactly they're different. But
yeah, I don't know.
Either way, cool parts, right? This is all stuff that that we're adding to our library that we can, sort of like work into our existing figures.
When you get one of these, the smaller arms, the wings, the mandible, and the antenna are all separate in the box. So you have to put them all together on this. And that was a little bit of a challenge.
Real quickly, so here are these smaller arms at the waist.
Yes, those smaller arms, the mandibles like coming out from his mouth, the antenna, and then obviously the wings are all separate in the package. So like those little arms, they have an articulation point where they plug into his side. And like at least mine, they were stuck when I first got them. So I had to heat those up and bend it first so that articulation point would work. And then I had to heat up the side of him so that I could push that in. The antenna and the mandibles, those just kind of pushed in, but you have to get the right side on you got to make sure you have the right one and the left one in order for it to look like it is in the picture here. And so it was just kind of like I kept referring back to the picture as I was putting this together. So it may not hurt to have Source Horseman up as you're throwing this guy together.
Right. Yeah, that has I've heard people comment on that with some Mythic Legions figures, like, wait, where are the instructions on some things, like for soft goods in particular, putting capes on, like what's the right way to put it on, kind of a thing, or sometimes the wings. So
I was not really looking forward. This was probably the figure that I was looking forward to the least. But it's pretty cool. Like I'm not a bug guy, but the wings are super cool. It's hefty too. Like this thing's got some weight to it. It's about the size, a little bit taller maybe than a standard figure. But it's got some weight. It's almost like ogre weight to it. So
standing up with all that stuff, the little extra arms in the front, any issues with balance, or is that
no?
Yeah, his feet are kind of biggish. I love this thorax. Is that right?
Yeah,
right term.
And that does unplug, but it was in there when you pull them out of the package, but you can pull that off.
So cool. And the connection point on that, well, I guess we'll get more into that some other time, but it's just really cool. Again, if you're story stuff aside, all that, like if you're collecting Four Horsemen figures, between Figure Obscura, between Mythic Legions, you're just amassing this library. Like, as you all may or may not know, I'm a big Lego person. And at a certain point it clicked that like, oh yeah, just the more sets I get, the more pieces I get, and I can create all sorts of cool new stuff, which is just something really unique to what the sort of like ecosystem that Four Horsemen have been creating with these lines. Very cool. Other lines are doing it too, but like when they talk about these lines, they really think about parts use and what new parts can we put in. Like these hands. Like, look at those. That's a whole new type of hand for our Legions in general figures.
I'll be honest, I was kind of confused with some of the hands. Now, obviously, there's hands packs that'll be a little bit different, but like the hands on some of these, like they offer a bunch of hands, and a lot of them are very similar. Like I was looking at them for quite a while and going, I don't know what the difference is. Like that one that you've got down towards the front. And then the one that's like above it, like to the right and above, like I don't know the difference between those and these down here. So
is it the joint?
It doesn't. No, I don't. Maybe it is. Yeah,
Is
maybe
one
one
like
side to side and one might be up and down.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I mean, I hear you though. I'm looking at these and I'm like, those look fairly similar.
but like Thygar, for instance, the Grave Ring Thygar, he came with like 8 hands or something. Not one of them was a fist. It's like, like there were like 4 sets of hands that were just like gripping hands, a couple gun trigger hands, but like no fist. So I don't know.
Well, another Sphexian again in this wave is this, and I just kind of wanted to quickly show you got a sense of the other one, but mostly reuse, different head, which gives us like what a helmeted Sphexian would look like, which is awesome.
I think the wings are a little bit different, different color anyway.
Yeah. Same piece though, yeah.
Yeah, I like the color on this one better too. I haven't opened that one yet, but I'm looking forward to that one because I like the blues, and I know it's kind of like a color shift paint to it as well. So yeah, that'll be cool.
And Sectars was one of my favorite lines as a kid, and so that will have these, and these are going to outlast than what they did with the Sectars, with that sort of like vellum type thing. But these are amazing, and they look like insect wings. My kid is a sort of a sciencey animal geeky kind of guy, and he loves animals. The second he saw these, he was blown away, and he's like, "Oh yeah, like those will work good with your monkey figures." And are there fish people? And it's so cool that I can like show him all these different toy lines because that's his entry point right now. So he was just blown away.
I remember when I saw these on the reveal special, the first thing I thought was, "I'm getting a buzz off." Like they're gonna do a buzz off tribute at some point. So yeah,
very cool. And all right, so there's other Tusk here. I think those are the main ones in this wave. Let's go ahead and move along to a different faction. So pick one. I'm open.
I'm gonna go with
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Bottom left.
This one? 7?
Yeah, that is what is that? The Mortal Thorn.
It looks muy macho. Hey,
it's a huge one.
Yeah, it's awesome because it looks so like aggro, and then like check out Zirian. She looks badass. Oh my god, look at that. So I will say this was for this and another female figure in this line that we'll get to in a second were the ones that were like, oh, my ears kind of perked up a little bit as far as a more sort of humanoid. Right off the bat, the insects, done deal. Like I knew.
Mm-hmm.
But these were like, like, oh, how many more humanoids can we get? And then when I saw that we're getting like these, this amazing kind of like face deco, these elaborate spots and shading, I was like, okay, I'm in for this line.
Yeah,
these are great.
Yeah, this is one where I love the look, but I'm not down with the story. Like they she's like a bioengineer, and she's like this, I look at this and I go, no, she's like a gunslinger, fucking bounty hunter, like badass chick. She's not a scientist. Like this is not, so for me in my world, like she's going to be like a gunslinger, a bounty hunter, some badass. So
I think you can be a scientist and still be a badass.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right.
Watch more Trek.
Yeah.
that poncho too, like again, that's the other thing that I was seeing more when these were being shown. I don't know if I'm trying to remember. No, I think it was what were they showing first, Poxus or these?
This came first and then Poxus.
Okay. Because I feel like this was the line where I was starting to see like, whoa, what's going on with the soft goods? Like I was like, especially this one, there was something about how well tailored it was and what you could do with it that I was really intrigued by, and that sort of like the lining on the inside, the different color lining. This is a great piece. Cool. This figure, you got an all in plus some. That's what going on at your house, Curtis?
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
yeah, an all in, the 12 pack, and then a couple extra figures.
For whatever reason, I completely forgot that this logo was on her back as well, which is really cool.
Yeah, that soft good is amazing.
I just think that's the coolest logo for the affiliations. that's why I picked this one. And
Yeah,
I think
it's
she's an
very
awesome
cool.
looking character.
And this hair texture, oops, sorry, going back for a second. For whatever reason, like I'm into these weird textures, and that just looks really cool to me. Like they're
Mhm.
thick
That looks-
strands.
I love that. Yep.
Yeah.
Her alternate
Fiber
head with
optic
the
hair.
mask and the hood looks really
Mhm.
cool too. So
Again, one of those little projection things.
Mhm.
It's a planet, right?
Yep.
There you go. Is this the only alternate head?
Yeah, but
Yeah,
then
and then the mask.
you've got the look with, you know, hood up or hood down kind of thing. So
Very cool. Yeah, that face is great. Now, so they are using this face, aren't they? Or this head or face in Necronominus? Oh, no. My bad. I'm tripping.
I don't think that
It's-
Nose on, nose
It's
off.
the
bro?
other. It's
Thrace.
It's the other. Thrace's face is used on the other girl from Ziri's race.
Okay.
She's got like the brown and orange skin from the Zaxius Outpost Zaxius wave.
Got it. I mix them up because I'm racist. All right, let's go back. So that's the Mortal Thorn. So that's wave 1 as well. Let's see what else we can do in terms of the wave 1 figures. What else of these came in wave 1? No grave
Most
ring.
of grave ring.
Yeah, grave ring.
Most of grave ring, except for one figure, should be
Oops.
in wave 1.
Oh yeah. Oh duh, of course, our protagonist. Let's see. There's our protagonist. You've heard us say Thygar, or Oleg Thygar. I don't know how this works for his people, if that's the first name or the last name. I already got thrown off by Dinjarin, so for whatever reason, I've been calling
And I do have
Oleg
him
Thygar.
open. I do not have the other version open, but I do have the
You have this one?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's take a look. Man, this sculpt. What's the deal with the big head that, you know, you sort of see like on the pillow in the Four Horsemen streams and stuff, like, and then that was sort of the bust that was used. Was that just for production, like for concepting, or do you know why they have this gigantic head around? Why did they made that?
I think it's just kind of, he's the main guy of Cosmic, and then, you know, they had it in that show.
Because they can.
So,
Yeah,
they
I
can.
guess so. I've wondered what that was about.
There you go.
That is really cool, man. This thing screams, and I know that at one point the Four Horsemen were working on Power Lords, but this screams Atom Power.
Yeah.
A lot of it's a color, but it's also the texture and the alien. Can we see the texture of his back too?
Yep. And that back piece does come out if you want
That
to.
is a separate piece.
Yeah. So if you
Love
want to
that.
plug in like pauldrons or something. So
Yeah, I love
And
that they're
then
giving us
your-
pieces to change up the silhouettes too of these figures.
yeah, and then to Jesse's point earlier, like this head is different than the other Thygar that we'll look at. His two heads are different. So
Now, doesn't one of these sentries or one of the Tusk builders have like a hologram projection that looks like his head with that ring going around the? Because he's got a second set of rings coming out from like the midpoint of his ears, right?
no, the hologram projection on the science officer is the bonus head that comes with it. So there's like that gold one that comes with the all-in. There's also a silver one that comes from like the retailers, and it's like this skull with it's like a skull with like a ring around it.
Yeah. So it's like the skull of someone from his same species, but for whatever reason, it has a protrusion, like an additional thing.
If you look at Big Bad Toy Store, I think it's still available right now, but it's just like this little silver skull, and if with the all-ins, you've got a gold skull.
Yeah.
So it's a hologram projection of that.
But I guess what I'm saying is, like, could that be the skull that's under him, like in his head, or is he like?
It's possible. I don't know.
Because I think those were somewhere. I remember hearing someone call those things the Cronin skulls, and
Yeah.
I feel like there's some tie into him merging with the Cronins, or he was a Cronin and it's like re-evolving out of him or something. Because his story is interesting, and because he has two different write-ups on both figures. Like there's a different story on each version of his figure.
Yeah, I love that about Jesse. Like you study those things, man. I love it. you started any spreadsheets yet for Cosmic?
Yeah. No.
Not yet. Okay.
Someone else loves Cosmic more than me, so I'll let someone else do that.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just looking at this back. It's so detailed. And again, these are all going to be pieces that they could use for, and they are using actually in Mythic, right? These arms.
I feel like we just need to give this guy some lotion.
I don't know. I don't know that they've used that for any characters yet.
Oh no, you're
Have
right.
they?
I'm thinking no.
Kragnar, the orange guy.
Yes.
Yeah, but that's the
for the
older
blue
scale.
dragon.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
that's
been
right.
used for the Dragonborn. Yeah,
I don't know that
Dragonsary.
there's anything that's used this body though on the 1.0 scale for like other than Thygar.
I don't think so.
Not yet, anyway.
Yeah, this head again. Intrigued by the sculpt of that, and has that head at his house right now. That's a theme for the last couple. Last night I kept for whatever reason talking about heads and boxes in my closet.
Does he have? Do you mean you have the pillow with the head on it, or the sculpt that was at PowerCon and that was on the show? Do you have that at your house, or do you just mean you have the figure?
I don't think it was the pillow one. He had it at the Mythic meetup out here in the West Coast, and I stared at that thing for a good minutes.
You said it was the pillow?
It wasn't a pillow. It was on a surface.
The head
it
that
was like
appears on the
it's
pillow.
the actual sculpted
The
head.
actual sculpted.
Okay.
Yeah.
So thank you for joining the class. Yeah, man, these very cool. This is presumably our protagonist, at least for this point in the story. Cool accessories. I love this thing. I don't even know what the deal is. Maybe it's my weird Catholic upbringing that reminds me of like the incense burner or something. But either way, whenever that thing came out, I was like, that thing's cool. What's the story?
Yeah, and he comes with that little green thing that plugs in. It kind of looks like a gun, maybe. I don't know what it's supposed to be.
Ship.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's a ship.
Gotcha.
It's he's like looking. Is it his ship? I don't know.
None of the pictures that Trevor had him using it, so I was surprised when I opened up and saw that. I was like, "What's this? I don't remember this."
Because I think part of the story they're hinting at is there's some sort of prison break or escape going on. That might be the ship that they're, Yeah, so that thing they call the meteor hammer with chain, which
this one, the incense burner is the meteor hammer. Even cooler. It's the meteor hammer. I gotta go back to church.
It's supposed to like break down off the staff. Like I think that chain and everything is supposed to be hidden down in the staff, like a transforming weapon.
Yeah, very cool. So you did not open the other version of this, but there are two versions of this character in the same wave.
I did pull that back piece off if you want to see what the back looks like without that.
Sure. Show us. Since right. You are
that's what it looks like without that.
Has the
toys. And then this is the back piece. So that just plugs into that, where the pauldron holes and the back are. So
I hope nobody has trypophobia.
Okay.
I have a friend who does, and so yeah.
I don't have the phobia, but it oogs me out. Not on these.
What is that?
It's like the fear of like those frogs that like hatch babies out of their back.
Oh, come on. Ugh.
Or isn't it textures as well? Like just textures like that, correct? That's a rather specific phobia.
It's
like
disgust
patterns.
or fear of patterns of holes.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I was going to say, if it's a whole phobia for a very specific frog that you may never encounter in your life.
Well, no, that's just that frog was what introduced me to that word.
Oh, gotcha. So let's check him out. Like this whole spacesuit, awesome to think about. Like what a spacesuit would look like for non-human biology. That's why I appreciate that Sphexian armor as well, to be able to see these sort of like alien figures, other outfits. This whole spacesuit thing that's coming in a couple of the figures is really, really cool to me. Just what we might be able to see people do as far as customs. Very cool.
And it, like, if you look at look at his arms there, that's the same arm that is on that Tusk Sentry that we showed earlier. That is one solid color.
Yeah.
So you can see Like you start painting some of those details on there,
Yep.
and all of a sudden it looks totally different. And
Yep.
and that's the beauty of these, you know, whether it's Mythic Legion or Cosmic Legion, there's so much sculptural details in these that they'll be able to reuse these parts umpteen million times and paint them different ways and make them look brand new.
Yeah, I mean, we see that with Mythic Legions all the time, right? With some of the armor.
And aren't there like tons of extra like little modular parts on here, like all their chest pieces? Or is that what you were just saying? Like you can pop that center piece out, and different things that'll snap in. Because I think he's got like a split toe foot, whereas the other, like the Tusk officers, all have like a standard looking boot.
Yes.
So I just think that's really cool that there's, you know,
and the Sphexians have that type of split toe thing too.
They have the split toe. Okay.
Yeah.
So Shawn, curious, of the things that we're looking at so far, what do you, you know, like you were kind of saying, I'm getting used to it and I'm kind of figuring out, what are there any of the ones that we looked at that you're drawn to?
Yeah. The Sphexians were definitely first and foremost. I loved how alien yet, you know, familiar they looked. And I'm always a fan of, like, if you can have a bunch of those as like goons or whatever, that's pretty sweet. This is the version that I pre-ordered, or that I did order today, actually, for Oleg Thygar. I just like that spacesuit a lot. And it, you know, just having that, the dome and everything on him and stuff. It's like the overall look of him is like that space adventure vibe that I was talking about. So I really like him. And then my Ziri was another one that grabbed my attention. And then we haven't talked about Vorga yet, but Vorga was my absolute favorite of the
same
wave.
Yeah, I'm with you. What was it about Vorga here that grabbed your attention, imagination?
I just, the bulkiness. I like that they went there with her. I like that she is a very unique figure, even to anything they've done to this point, Mythic Legions or Cosmic. It's she's got this unique silhouette. The pieces that make her look the way she does. She looks like the most kick-ass warrior woman in the universe. You know.
Yep.
I'm very, very impressed with all of the details of the figure, the silhouette that she has, and all
look
of
at
it.
Look at that bicep. Like, scroll up and look at that. Yeah. Like, dude.
I have to get multiples of her so I can make female orcs in the 1.0 size.
Oh yeah, that's good.
Like we talked about it a bit last night. Like, she reminds me of like Vasquez from Aliens. In that way, like she just
yeah.
And
You too, huh?
And I wasn't the biggest Vasquez fan as a kid, but I always thought it was cool that who was it? Apone and her, if I remember right, or who was it?
Right here.
The two of them together, yeah.
Yep.
And there was something about that I always thought was cool, because I'm a big fan of like the team within a team. So you have a whole team, but then there's two people that are relying on each other, and they got each other's backs, and they're almost like, you know, family at that point. And Vorga has that vibe, and I'm trying to figure out, like, do I want to do that with her on my shelf? Do I find another character who has that same feeling, or is she her own lone wolf kind of a character?
You ready for me to disappoint you, Shawn?
But
I've never seen that movie.
How the hell are you on Offworld? What the hell? Like, you never? Okay,
I've never once watched
that happens
movie.
to me a lot too. I love you, Curtis.
Need to stop giving
you,
crap to Dooch about not seeing Batman Returns. Then
I mean, like Dooch just said he's never seen Conan, and to be honest, depending on where you are about fantasy, I can maybe understand why you might not go there, because that's a specific kind of fantasy movie. But like Aliens to me is just like it's sci-fi, and it's also action. It's an action adventure race against time movie. Like there's different genres that encapsulates that one. So I'm kind of shocked by that, to be honest.
I don't have a reason not to watch it. It's not like I don't want to see it. I've just never come across it. It's never been something where somebody's like, "Hey, you want to watch this?" or that I've been flipping through the channels and saw it. I don't know. So I'll have to make an effort to watch it.
Well, I'll give you an honest thing about that real quick, and then we can move on. That movie encompasses multiple phobias and fears I have, which makes it interesting for me to watch, because I am not a fan of deep dark water. There's a couple parts where there's people in deep dark water and there's stuff in there with them, and that part gives me the creeps. There's parts where you're in enclosed spaces and there's strobe lights and you can't see what's in there with you, which freaks me out. And the other thing is things that are bigger than you that want to kill you. Because at the end of the movie, when you
have a fear of that?
Oh my God. Like Jesse knows. I was talking to him the one night and I go, I know this would never happen. And I honestly know it's not real, but Cthulhu makes me shit my pants. Like the concept of that, and like I've talked, my wife the other night just looks at me and she goes, "You're scared of that. You're not scared of this." Like all the normal thing. I go, I'm scared of home invasion. That would actually freak me out too, because that's like people are coming into your place where you should feel peaceful and safe. Right. And it's like, yeah, that freaks me out. But Cthulhu freaks me out more than home invasion.
Imagine
that's
home invasion by
megalophobia.
Cthulhu.
Yeah, I absolutely. It just freaks me out. So yeah.
This accessory is amazing. I went to Vasquez too. The second I saw this character, like that's my brain's there too. It's kind of like, you don't talk religion and politics at the table. Curtis, I know when you're around, I can't talk Conan, Frazetta, or apparently aliens now. So
I love Conan.
Oh, okay.
He does. He's not into Frazetta as much. He does not understand.
It's just the Frazetta. Yeah.
And I don't have a problem with Frazetta. I just don't. Yeah, I don't lose my mind.
Overrated, right? Yeah, I remember hearing
this face, man. Sorry,
I do like the masked
I'm obsessed
face better
with
than
this
the
face.
unmasked face.
This one, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think, is it a separate head or is it a piece that slips on?
I think it's a separate head, isn't it?
Okay.
Looks separate.
I don't know. I don't have it.
Well, if that was a piece that slips on, it would have been like Zeri, because they had the separate head plus that mouthpiece.
Is the hair the same on the other head?
So I think it is just a separate head for her.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think it is a separate head though.
I like both of them. I think the mask looks cool, but like I really like the design of that face.
Mm-hmm.
My guess is with that mask, trying to get anything up over that with how the face is sculpted and the head is sculpted, I think it would probably mess that thing up too much. So that's probably why they gave us just the second full head of it instead.
She's a badass though.
Yeah, when everybody started getting their photos and started posting them and things, like every time I'm like, I really got to get my hands on her. And then I went on Horsehead Toys. I like going to them to get stuff, and they're already sold out on there. So then I had to think of where else can I go and get this figure, because we were talking about it last night. She's probably the sleeper of the wave. A lot of people weren't really excited about her, but now she's getting a lot more popular as people are getting them and as time has gone on.
Yeah, Nate.
Nate, did you design the logo?
Yeah, that's right. I was going to go back to that, see if we can get some scoops. But it's two heads. Makes more sense because it wraps around the back, too.
And, two heads are better than one.
That's what I hear. I've been stuck this whole time with just the one. All right, so...
The other figure that we didn't look at, too, was Kragnar. We never looked at him.
Oh, yeah. I was just kind of going through. Let's take a look. Yeah, I figure, especially when we have the whole teaching team here, we probably take a closer look at some of these figures. But yeah, let's talk about Kragnar. Kragnar being the other big figure in this wave, right? In addition to Slog. But this is more a size that we're familiar with. This is the ogre scale for Mythic Legions.
Yep. Nate, we were asking about the Cosmic Legion logo total. Like, did you do the logo for Cosmic Legions?
And he did her tattoo, which is always cool too.
Yeah.
Oops, I'll get back to that. So this reminds me of an old Four Horsemen throwback
Yes.
to Procrustes.
Yes.
And so this is them like, let's do ogre scale, but with 4 arms. And so
I love Procrustes. That's my favorite classics figure.
He's a good one. I'm excited. I actually got him just recently at Mythic Meetup.
Nice.
But yeah, this thing is cool. Again, I haven't been into Legions. My first figures actually arrived in February of last year of 2022. And, I was like, oh, I'm going to get a couple of, ogre scale. That'd be cool. I like variety in my shelf, but I have so many ogre scale now that it doesn't even look like variety. It looks like I'm collecting 2 different action figure lines. Like, I've got my like large scale figures in my skull. Like it's obscene. And then we're at this point now where I've got like, I saw this, like, gotta have it. And then it's like, oh, do I need the green dragon too? Like it's
You gotta have this thing, man, with the 4 arms and the shackles. And I think the thing that I really love about the ogre figures, like in my hand, like it almost feels like when I was a kid and I would have like the He-Man figures or something in my hand, like just the size difference. Like you had this big bulky figure in your little kid hand, and having like an ogre in your adult hand, it kind of it feels that similar way. It's like, man, this thing is just massive. And so same thing with Slog. Like I can't wait to just hold that chunky, heavy guy. So
it's so good. So good. And here he is in the same cell that Chewie was in Solo. Sorry, I've got Star Wars stuck in my brain.
This picture right here is where I thought Rancor. Like I know he doesn't look like Rancor, but I'm just thinking like this guy is just locked away in a thing, just waiting for somebody to fall through a trap door or something. And it just,
And those hands, but just when we're looking again, just cool new parts for our ogre scale figures. This is going to be used in, I'm assuming, the dragon, the blue dragon, and Poxus. The green Scourge figure.
What's that? Tiger doesn't have fist, but this guy has fist. So, well, I should say the Grave Ring Tiger doesn't have fist. I don't know about the other one may have fist. So.
All right. Well, I'm thinking before we close out, since we do have Nate here, Nate Barsh of the Four Horsemen Studios, artist extraordinaire. We were talking about this logo, and so he's saying, did that with Eric. We do have some. What were the questions that we had? We were wondering, planets wise, are these dots indicative of planets, and are there
or solar systems or something else?
Yeah. Do you know, or can you tell us? Just curious. It'd be nice to have one fun little definitive thing brought here if you're still there. But I think this logo is super cool. I love how it kind of all works together with typography.
Well
done.
The other thing I forgot to mention on these with opening them up. Let me grab them real quick. Hold on. Be right back.
Yep.
Hold on.
For those of you watching, yes, the Thygar does not come with fists, either version of him, but there is a Heroes Hands pack that comes with a set of 1.0 and 2.0 hands for the Vorga and Ziri. So if you are at all adept at painting, you could paint the fist hands in the Heroes pack to match for Thygar.
So I wanted to show this real quick. This is a couple of the inserts that comes with these figures, and they make really nice like little diorama pieces. So there's kind of like this one comes with some of the Tusk ones, and then you have this one came with the Grave Ring Thygar, and it's kind of a little prison cell. So I really love these little inserts that they put in there as well. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, when we were at an intern for the day, that was something that we were allowed to look at over Nate's shoulder. And that was actually a really cool addition with this line. Again, the forward thinking of Mythics, where you just have that back piece that just slides in, and it's, you know, everyone has the same look. And I like that they're trying to incorporate an environment into it as well, and it's not just here's figures in a box now, you know. And that's an added little bonus that Nate got to work on, and it's pretty cool to flesh it out, you know.
Yeah, I mean, like, so if you had on your shelf or something like this, like that's just a pretty cool look.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. That's one of my favorite things about the Figure Obscura figures, right? I'm getting with all those sort of like scenes that come with. We tried to ask Nate for some secrets, but if you didn't see that, he confirmed that, yeah, you know, I guess that's also been out there. Hey, look, the rings on the Cosmic Legions logo represent the rings of Cosmerium. The dots, I asked specifically what's up with those planets, ? And can't really say at this time. Throws on his shades.
We still like you, Nate.
In the background.
You're still
and Nate.
Cool.
Yes, I think folks do love you and your work in particular, because folks like Star, they need posters of that artwork. So just, you know, throw that out there. All right, folks. So we got through today the big overview of the world of Cosmerium. We went through and looked at the affiliations and got a sense of some of the figures. 3 of us on this screen right now are incredibly jealous of one of us who has these figures in hand and is having some amazing family bonding time over his toys like that. That's right there, man. You've made it, Curtis.
Yep. It's been fun.
Yeah. So the rest of us, what's our deal? Folks are waiting on pre-order. Some folks are. Is there any of us who are still kind of thinking about getting in or not? Because I do know there are some folks who are really into Mythic Legions who are like, nah, I'm actually thinking of maybe not really getting into Cosmic Legions for a number of reasons. Is that anybody here, or no shame?
I'm staying focused on Mythic, but I'll be getting some Cosmic.
Yeah. Are there like a couple from this wave you're looking at? Sorry, I think you mentioned earlier, but
for me specifically, yeah, Vorga, Ziri, the Sphexians, and probably Kragnar.
Yeah. I'm in the same place. Those figures that you listed. Did you say what's her name? Ziri?
Yes.
Yeah, I think we pretty much have the same list. Oh, and I got the Thygars. I don't think that you did mention.
I'll get
one of them.
I'll probably get both of them, just because if that story is progressing, I think that's cool.
Yeah, I kind of paused on the tusks to kind of like
don't sleep on the sentry.
Well, I'm pretending like I have self-control, Curtis, so allow me some of that. How about you, Shawn? You actually kind of mentioned the ones that you're looking at.
Yeah, I did my order this morning. Ziri, Vorga, the spacesuit Thygar, the Sphexians, and if you go on EmpireToyShop.com, yes, I'm the reason they're sold out. Sorry, people. I did that today, and I had no qualms with that, because I'm like, you know what? These are army builders. I'm going to do it this one time and just have a little bit of fun. I think that was all I did on that order today, because this is definitely a line I will be cherry picking no matter what. I'm still more Mythic as well, same as Jesse, where that's still where my heart is, but there's so much fun with these and the details and all of the extra stuff that you get with this, that now you can, if you want to bring it into Mythic and turn it into almost like a proto Masters of the Universe feeling, have the barbarian and futuristic all together. It's really fun. And honestly, some of the later waves that we didn't get to tonight, those are the ones where I'm like, oh, that's going to be hard for me not to get all that now. So when we get to those, it'll be something to talk about. But I'm happy with the ones I cherry picked today, though. So,
okay.
For me,
Curtis, I
would say, I've always been more sword and sorcery than outer space. As this got closer, I started getting really excited for these. Now, having the few that I've opened so far in my hand, I'm 100% all in on Cosmic, more so than Mythic. Like I looked at this past Mythic wave that they did, and I go, you know, I really like the Templar. I really like this. I really like that. I'm going to buy 3 or 4 of those figures. But there's some of them where I'm like, I don't really need that one. I don't feel that way with Cosmic. So I could see my ordering potential going forward to be more heavy with Cosmic than it is with Mythic, just based on like what I'm seeing and playing. And I'm having so much fun with these things.
I mean, you're invested in Detolfs, as we established at the beginning of the show. So
I'm actually looking at, because I've got 8 Detolfs of Mythics, and then I've got these 2 open ones that are for Cosmic. And I've started looking at the 8 with the Mythic and go, is there some of this stuff I can get rid of or condense so I can make some more Cosmic space? So
don't forget Jesse in that equation.
Yeah, I'm just saying these things are amazing. Once you get these in hand, I'm telling you, like, it's a game changer. So
Star,
I'll let you soak that in.
I think you're a little biased.
Slightly biased.
Just a little. And that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah, and Star, on that note, I'm super happy for you, friend, because I know this has been a line that you've been waiting for. It looks like you've got plenty to play with and keep you busy, according to this. So well done. And like other folks, I mean, it's interesting to see the Horsemen sort of branch out and do a whole new line, and then of course with Figura. When we started doing Legions class together, I think you know, Cosmic was a thing that was talked about and kind of present in terms of pre-order, but we were focused on Mythic Legions. And then I think when Oz started this, it was he got his first taste with the Headless Horseman, right? With Figura. So it's interesting now that we're here a couple months in and we've got a whole other new world. I'm hearing Curtis say, I might be shifting a lot more towards Cosmic. So then we got folks like Brian Brink who are like, I think Cosmic is truly where my heart is. Start trimming down my Mythics and save for, except for completing Xylonis Flock and Orcs and Goblins. Yeah, and I think it's sort of interesting to have these new different options going on. You are absolutely welcome. So
yeah, I was thinking about that with my Mythics, and I'm like, if I just had Templars and Orcs, I think I'm good. Like I'm like I could see myself getting rid of Mythics with the exception of those 2, and then just going all out Cosmic. I'm not saying that's what I'm going to do, but like those are the ones that really I was like, I could never get rid of the Orcs or the Templars. But yeah, these Cosmic are really pulling me right now.
I wonder how this is going to age in a year. I think all those details are going to be filled with Cosmics next year or the year after that. He's just going to go, I parted with Mythics and I don't miss them at all, and all this stuff. And we'll all be jaws on the floor going, he did it. The bastard finally did it.
Like, Cosmic Curtis.
Cosmic Curtis, the inevitable. There we go.
They're pretty amazing, man.
Yeah, I'm excited. I can't wait to get mine. It'll probably come in July as those start shipping. So it's a good time, man. It's a good time to be a toy fan. It's a good time to be a Four Horsemen fan. So anyway, thanks again to all of you who joined us today. It was a good crowd. Again, Oz and Eldor couldn't be here, but they will be back for the next one. On that note, we were trying to do these every month, right? And so we're sort of kind of counting this as June, by the way. So hopefully sometime in July, don't look at your calendars, don't count. Sometime in July, we will likely be coming back with Legions class, and I'll sort of leave that for Oz to kind of get the word out as we figure that out. So hopefully we'll be able to check in again and take a look at maybe some of our figures, right? And get our sense of the other teachers in the room, a sense of like what our experience is with this awesome new Cosmic Legions toy line. So super grateful to have you guys join. Again, this has been the Off-World Something Splinter Group podcast. It just kind of worked out that way. Yeah, so you all want to, on that note, tell us a little bit more about what you got going on, what's coming up for you?
Sure.
Or not. I mean, I can just click.
on the Just Shelve It YouTube channel,
Mhm.
Curtis and I do Shooting the Shelf every Sunday night. This week we have Chris Ferrone, part of the Mythic Bits customizer group. They do like the beard clips and the different things where they try to work pieces into existing stuff. Like the beard clips, and they did like what do they call them? The D clips or whatever. They're like the loin pieces that were flat that you could just plug into the waist piece and like make your own loin piece, or let them be a rider or whatever.
Some chest plates too. They did the female
chest plates.
Yeah.
Yes, they did some female chest plates. And like the faces now, they're making face clips that go into some of the deluxe Legion Builder ones, where if you pull the beard off of the barbarian or whatever. So we'll have him on Sunday night. Tomorrow night, 9 p.m. And then, well, I'll leave something for the other guys to say.
Leave some for the rest of us.
We do have Off-World on Fridays. So this week was what we call an off week. Next week is also an off week. And on the off weeks, that's where Jesse has D&D. So we just we don't really have too much of an agenda. We just kind of talk about things. But then on our numbered shows, we actually have like kind of an agenda or some sort of topic that we, usually advertise beforehand. So those are Friday on the Off-World YouTube channel, 9 p.m. Eastern. And I just got to say, thanks for having me on. This was a blast. If you guys, any of these other Legions classes, if you need another person to sit in, I definitely would be all for it. So
cool.
Thank you very much.
Looking forward to the detail construction or video tutorial. Shawn, what you got?
Well, Thursday nights, I'm on semi-regularly on Toy Frenzy with Oz and Skelevator and Bobby. And we talk shop about toys, mostly Masters of the Universe. That's 9:30, I think it is, on Thursdays. And then obviously Off-World. And then on top of that, the Dooch and I from Off-World, we do a Legends of Grayskull podcast. And we put out a recent episode last week. And we should be getting together to do a new one pretty soon. So if you want to listen to that, it will keep you updated on when our next episode is.
Awesome. And definitely join them in the Legendati Facebook group. The link is in the chat. I've also put most of our information in the description, but that was before we were able to get Curtis to sub in today. So I'll make sure that info is there as well. As far as I go, I'm going to have some things drop on the channel. So if you haven't already, please consider liking and subscribing and doing all the YouTube things to Brick something. I will also next Sunday scheduled. I already know that there will be another episode of AWOC Talk Live Monkey Business over on the Highly Articulated channel, where we're going to break down a little bit more. No, actually, I think we're going to be meeting with a special guest, so that's to be announced. So that's a live stream, and also I know folks have had all sorts of questions based on our lore videos, so come through, and that's kind of a different class, a little bit more monkey oriented. So that's what I got. And if I play my cards right, I'll be doing that from Hawaii.
Oh, nice.
So, hopefully the internet works. If not, oh well, have fun. All right, folks. Thank you all again for coming in and doing the switch of venue. I appreciate you guys so much. Curtis, welcome anytime, of course. Thank you so much for actually being able to show us the toys. So, right on, folks. Have a good night. Thank you to everyone in the chat. Peace, power, all those good things. Thank you. Woo-hoo.